My name is Marissa Hale. I'm 33, born and raised in Austin, Texas. And for the last 4 years, every ounce of overtime pay, every skipped brunch, every late night editing session went into transforming the old storage shed behind my parents' house into a fully equipped podcast studio. It was just a dusty wooden structure when I started, but I sanded the walls myself, installed acoustic foam square by square, saved 3 months to afford a Neumann mic, and built a workstation that could handle heavy multi-track editing without melting down. People laughed when I told them I was starting a niche podcast about small business grit and American survival stories. But the numbers grew. Then the emails from sponsors came in. Then a Spotify regional feature. And suddenly the studio, the one I built alone, was covering nearly 40% of my monthly bills. I thought my family was proud of me. I thought they saw it the way I did, a path to independence. Turns out I was wrong. Everything shifted during Sunday dinner, one of those evenings where you can smell rosemary chicken from the driveway. Everyone was there. Mom fussing with the napkins, Dad pouring sweet tea, Harper scrolling her phone, Logan bragging about some crypto side hustle that definitely didn't sound legal. And right after the plates hit the table, Dad cleared his throat and said, "Marissa, we've been talking. We're turning your studio into a playroom for Harper's baby." Just like that. No warning, no conversation, no acknowledgement that it wasn't even their studio anymore. My fork froze in midair. What do you mean turning it into a playroom? Mom chimed in with that soft, sugary tone she uses when she's about to bulldoze you. Well, honey, Harper needs space. And, priorities change when a baby's coming. Your podcast is fun, but this is family. Harper didn't even look up. She just shrugged, like it was the most natural thing in the world to take something I'd spent years building. My pulse hammered in my ears. The room felt like it tilted sideways. But because I've been trained my whole life to be the easy one, the flexible one, the don't make a scene one, I swallowed hard, forced a smile, and said, "Okay, I'll figure something out." The words tasted like metal. And if you've ever had your dreams dismissed by the people you trusted most, you know exactly what that moment feels like. If your family ever treated your goals like optional storage space, drop your experience in the comments. And before we go any further, hit subscribe so you don't miss how this whole mess unravels. And tell me where you're watching from. I love seeing the cities pop up. I barely tasted dinner after that. Every word floated above me like I wasn't even in the room. My parents started rambling about paint colors and storage bins and how the timing is perfect because they wanted to freshen up the backyard anyway. Freshen up. Like my studio was a patch of weeds. Harper finally put her phone down long enough to say, "Yeah, Logan and I already bought some decor ideas. It's gonna be cute." Cute. Meanwhile, the equipment I worked my soul into, mixers, lights, the desk I assembled with my bare hands, just didn't matter. Maybe you've felt that sting before, when someone looks at years of your work and treats it like a hobby tray they can shove aside whenever something more important comes along. When the people who should champion you end up becoming the first ones to steal the ground from under your feet. By the time dessert came, I wasn't even angry yet, just numb. Like everything I built was suddenly on quicksand. I kept imagining the studio lights turning off for the last time. Foam panels ripped from the walls, my gear boxed up like old Christmas decorations. And the worst part? They all acted like this was normal, expected. I should gladly move aside because someone else needed the space more. That night, driving back to the small guest apartment above the shed, I told myself it was just a misunderstanding, a conversation we'd revisit. a shock that would settle. But deep down, something cold whispered, "This is only the beginning." The next morning, I walked toward the studio with a stack of empty boxes under my arm, telling myself I'd just reorganize. Maybe store things neatly, maybe talk to my parents again when everyone was calmer. I wasn't ready to believe they would actually take the space. Not really. But the second I pushed the door open, I knew the decision had already been made without me. My dad and Logan were inside, standing in my studio, moving equipment like they were clearing out a garage sale. The foam squares I installed one by one were stacked in messy piles on the floor. My editing chair was flipped sideways. The mic I spent 3 months saving for sat dangerously close to the edge of a folding table, like a disposable water bottle. Dad didn't even look up. "Morning, kiddo. Figured we'd get a head start so you don't have to rush after work. Trying to make this easy on you." Make this easy on me. Like they were doing me a favor by dismantling the one place in the world that felt like mine. My dad and Logan were unplugging my audio interface, yanking out wires like they were weeds. Yeah, Harper was up all night with nausea. We need the room ASAP. Doctor says she should avoid Strauss. His tone was casual, almost cheerful. Like a guy rearranging furniture, not interfering with someone's livelihood. Harper was curled on a lawn chair in the corner, hand pressed dramatically to her stomach, wearing sunglasses indoors. She let out a tiny whine when Logan shifted a box. I can't keep climbing those stairs, Riz. This is the only place that makes sense." I blinked at her. Those stairs she claimed were too steep. She ran up and down them during the 4th of July barbecue last year while carrying a tray of margaritas. But now, suddenly she was a fragile bird whose every movement required sacrificing my career. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. Instead, I watched my dad lift a box and accidentally knock my shock mount toward the concrete floor. It bounced twice before settling. He didn't even notice. "Dad, please, be careful with that. It cost..." He waved a hand. "Everything can be replaced. You'll just bill some sponsor for upgrades." I felt something shrink inside me. These weren't upgrades. These were the foundation of every contract I had booked. Logan nudged a pile of cables with his boot. "We already listed a few of the old things on Marketplace to make room. Some folks are coming by to look later. Hope that's okay." I froze. Listed? What? He pulled out his phone and proudly showed the posts. My pop filter, my backup monitor, my lighting stands, all listed for half the price without my permission. We figured the cash would help you move. I felt my vision blur at the edges. Not from anger yet, but from the kind of hurt that hits your lungs first. For years, whenever my family needed something, money for mom's prescriptions, rent during dad's job gap, Harper's tuition when she dropped a class, I covered it without thinking. My podcast checks were the quiet glue that kept everything running when the rest of them stumbled. They never paid me back. I never asked, because I thought that's what family did. So seeing them treat my studio like clutter, like something they could rearrange, sell off, or repurpose without hesitation, it broke something soft in me, something I didn't know had limits. I knelt to save what I could, carefully wrapping the microphone in a towel, untangling the cables with shaky hands. Dust floated through the air as Logan and Dad kept talking over me, discussing baby furniture placement. Like I wasn't even there. Like I was the one in their way. By the time I carried the first box to the tiny apartment above, I wasn't angry. Not yet. Just hurt. The kind of hurt that sits in your throat and doesn't let you swallow. I kept telling myself they didn't mean it, that they were stressed, that babies change priorities. But as I shut the apartment door behind me, the truth pressed against my chest. For the first time ever, I felt like a guest in my own life.
I tried to make the apartment work. I really did. I rearranged the furniture 3 times, shoved my bed into the corner, balanced my editing monitor on a wobbly thrift store table, and told myself I could adapt. Because I'd always adapted. But by day 3, the cracks started showing. Literally. The ceiling fan rattled so loudly it bled into every recording. The neighbor's dog barked every hour. The refrigerator hummed like a passing semi-truck, vibrating through the wall into my audio track. I tried blankets, foam scrops, repositioning the mic. Nothing mattered. And when I lost my first sponsor because the draft episode sounded echoey and inconsistent, the knot in my stomach hardened into something hot, something I'd been avoiding for years. Anger. The kind that starts in your ribs and crawls up your throat. Still, I told myself it was temporary, but temporary became impossible the moment I returned to the shed to grab the rest of my gear. I walked in and stopped cold. My tripod, my sturdy, expensive tripod, was lying on the floor with one leg bent outward like it had been stepped on. The foam I had carefully labeled and stored, torn open and tossed into lawn bags. My acoustic diffuser panels, handmade, stained, sanded, were shoved behind a stack of baby shower gift bags like trash. And right in the middle of the room, Harper stood holding a paint swatch against the wall. "Logan, what do you think of this one? Soft peach or warm honey?" "Warm honey." For a room that was still legally mine? Logan barely glanced at me before answering her. "Honey, it'll look great on camera." Camera? What camera? Then Harper turned to me like she suddenly remembered I existed. "Oh, Riss, did you need something? Maybe take the rest of your stuff before we paint this weekend." "This weekend?" I repeated, voice thin. "Yeah," she said, tossing her hair over her shoulder. "We want to get it done before the brand deal goes live." Brand deal? Harper smiled, sweet as poison. "I'm starting a mommy lifestyle channel. Logan's helping. The studio will be perfect for filming." Perfect for filming. My throat burned. "Harper, are you serious? This is my workspace, my clients, my equipment. This is my career." She gave a tiny laugh. "Oh my God, Riss, relax. It's not like podcasting is a real career. You can record anywhere. Just use the apartment." "The apartment doesn't meet audio standards," I snapped. "Well, that's not really our problem, is it?" Logan chimed in. Something in me finally snapped. When were you all planning to talk to me? Before painting over everything I built? Before selling half my equipment? Before destroying the space that supports my actual income? Dad walked in right on cue, wiping his hands on a rag. "Enough, Marissa. You're overreacting." Overreacting? I stared at him. "Dad, you broke my mic mount. You sold my stands. You let them tear apart my studio." He shrugged. "Life changes. You'll adjust. Harper needs the space more than you." "No," I said, my voice breaking but steady. "Harper wants the space. That's not the same thing." Harper gasped dramatically. "Oh my God, Riss, I can't believe you'd say that when I'm dealing with all this stress." Stress? She hadn't lifted a single box. She hadn't gone to a single doctor's appointment that I'd heard about. And something about her performance made my skin crawl. "I've supported this family for years, quietly, without asking for anything. And this is how you repay me? By ripping apart the one thing that's mine?" Mom stepped in, placing a too gentle hand on my shoulder. "Sweetheart, don't make this ugly. Your podcast is a passion project, and you're young. You'll bounce back." Bounce back. Like I'd fallen. Like I hadn't been pushed. "My studio paid for your medical bills last spring. It covered Dad's truck repairs. It covered Harper's rent during her layoff. It's not a hobby." Mom's expression shifted. guilt flickering, then vanishing. You shouldn't bring that up. Family helps each other. Funny, because it feels like I'm the only one doing the helping. And for the first time, nobody denied it. They just looked away. That silence, that awful, heavy silence, told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't temporary. This wasn't about a baby or space or noise or any of the excuses they kept piling on. This was entitlement, control, convenience. They weren't taking my studio. They believed it had always been theirs to take. And anger, real, deep, blistering anger, finally settled into my bones. I walked out without another word, carrying the last box of my surviving gear. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. Because now I understood. They didn't just steal my space. They stole the belief that I mattered. I didn't cry when I walked out of the shed, not while I carried boxes up those steep outdoor stairs, not while I stared at the cluttered apartment that was now supposedly my new studio. No, tears came later, quiet ones, the kind you pretend are allergies, because admitting the truth hurts too much. That afternoon, I tried recording again, just a 30-second intro for a long-term sponsor. I stacked pillows around the mic, hung a blanket across the window, placed towels under the tripod. I tried everything, but the recording was ruined before it even began. The refrigerator hummed like a dying lawnmower. A motorcycle revved in the alley. A neighbor slammed their door. I listened back to the take, forehead pressed to the desk, and the audio sounded like I'd recorded it from inside a tin can. I emailed the sponsor, promising a better version within 24 hours, knowing I couldn't deliver. And then the cancellation email came. Not angry, not rude, just cold. Unfortunate timing. We'll revisit in the future. 20% of my monthly income disappeared in one sentence. Then another sponsor pulled out. Then a third. 3 contracts gone in 4 days. It wasn't anger anymore. It wasn't even sadness. It was something heavier, like being buried under wet concrete. Like I didn't just lose space, I lost momentum, identity, stability. By the end of the week, my apartment was filled with boxes I hadn't unpacked. I couldn't bring myself to open them. Every piece of gear just reminded me of what the studio used to be, and what I no longer had. That Friday night, my dad knocked on the door to my apartment. He didn't wait for me to let him in. He just stepped inside, carrying a 6-pack, like this was a casual visit. "You'll bounce back," he said, scanning the cramped room. "Your generation's flexible." Flexible! Like my entire job wasn't collapsing around me? He opened a beer, leaned against the counter, and gestured at the mess. "You should set up in that corner. There's good light from the window. And hey, your mom and Harper really appreciate you being understanding. It means a lot." Understanding? Is that what they called it? Because from where I stood, it felt more like erasing me in slow motion. My hands curled into fists. "You think this is just some hobby I can squeeze into a corner?" Dad sighed. "Marissa, we need stability right now. Harper's pregnancy? Is she even going to the doctor? Have you seen a single appointment reminder? A single ultrasound photo?" His eyes narrowed. "Don't get nasty." But the truth was clawing at me. "Dad, everything I've lost this week, money, clients, work, I can't just replace it. This studio wasn't a toy. It was my future." He waved me off like I was being dramatic. "You'll figure it out. You always do." Then he left the other beers on the counter and walked downstairs, humming like nothing was wrong. The door clicked shut, and a wave of hopelessness hit me so fast my knees almost buckled. For years, I'd covered their emergencies
quietly, without complaint, and I never asked for thanks. But now that I needed help, they couldn't even acknowledge what they had taken from me. It felt like suffocating under someone else's choices. Hours passed. I lay awake listening to footsteps and muffled laughter from the main house. Harper's voice floated up through the floorboards, cheerful and light, not a hint of pain or nausea. At midnight, I finally got up to get some water. The hallway lights were still on in the main house. Voices carried through the cracked door to the kitchen. Low, sharp, urgent. I stopped, pressed my back to the wall, listened. Mom's voice, tight. Harper needs that room. Logan said her channel can finally bring in money. We can't let Marissa derail that. Channel? Money? Dad replied, she'll fold. She always does. That girl was born agreeable. Agreeable. Like a doormat. Then Harper's voice, loud, bright, completely void of the supposed pregnancy fatigue. I'm telling you, if we get that room set up by next month, we can pitch to sponsors before Q2. But we have to keep Marissa out of it. She'll make it complicated. Complicated? By wanting my own studio? Logan chimed in, laughing. She already lost clients this week. She won't have the guts to fight, and even if she does, your dad owns the property. It's not like she has leverage. My breath hitched. Mom whispered, almost proudly, she's always been the reliable one. She'll understand this is for the greater good. Greater good. I couldn't listen anymore. I slipped upstairs, closed my apartment door, and sat in the dark. Not crying, not shouting, just sinking. Deeper than anger, deeper than sadness. Into the place where hope feels like a memory. Because in that moment, one truth settled painfully, brutally clear. They hadn't just taken my space. They'd built an entire plan around the assumption that I didn't matter. And I didn't know how to climb out of that. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard their voices again. Calm, casual, plotting out my life like it was a home renovation project. The echo of Harper's laugh, Logan's confidence, my dad's dismissive tone, it all layered together until the silence felt unbearable. Around 1 a.m., my phone buzzed. A FaceTime call. Dana, my best friend since freshman year of college, now living in Seattle. The one person who always seemed to know when something inside me snapped. I answered, and her face filled the screen. Messy bun, blue hoodie, eyes squinting like she'd run to grab her phone as soon as she saw my Instagram story of boxed up equipment. Marissa, talk to me, now. I didn't plan to spill everything, but once the first sentence left my mouth, everything else poured out. Every detail, every betrayal, every moment of being dismissed, stepped on, erased. Dana didn't interrupt. She didn't soften it with validation. She just listened, the way people who really love you do. When I finally finished, she exhaled slowly and leaned in. They're doing it to you, she said quietly. The same way mine did to me. I blinked. What do you mean? Dana looked down, twisted the drawstring of her hoodie. You remember when I moved to Colorado for a year, right? I told you it was for a job. Yeah? It wasn't. My parents kicked me out of my massage studio space, said my cousin needed it temporarily while he got back on his feet. That turned into 18 months. I lost all my clients, my license expired, I basically had to start over in a new state. My breath caught. Dana, why didn't you tell me? Because I was ashamed. I didn't want to admit that my own family treated me like a backup generator instead of a daughter. And you know what I learned? They don't stop. Not until you set fireproof boundaries. Otherwise, they'll burn you down to keep everyone else warm. Her words hit something inside me, something that had been struggling to breathe. Dana held my stare. Marissa, your family sees you as the flexible one, the helper, the reliable worker bee who sacrifices quietly. But you're not a resource. You're a person. And you deserve a life where your work isn't at the mercy of people who don't respect it. I don't have a studio. My clients are gone. My equipment's half broken. I don't even know where to start. Start by cutting off the financial leash. Stop paying rent to your dad. Stop covering emergencies. Stop cushioning their decisions. They only get to manipulate you because you make it easy for them. Easy. That word felt like a punch. I don't want them to lose the house. I murmured. That's not your responsibility, she said firmly. You're not their bank. You're not Harper's career sacrifice. You're not Logan's business loan. You're not backup childcare for a baby that doesn't even exist. I flinched. Dana, you think she's not pregnant? Marissa. She posted a swimsuit pic 5 weeks ago with a flat stomach and 2 mojitos. Suddenly she's too fragile to walk upstairs? Come on. The pieces clicked into place, sickeningly smooth. Dana continued, voice steady. Look at me. I did. You need a new studio. One that's yours. One nobody can take away. Downtown Austin has cheap creative spaces, warehouses, lofts, old office units. Get on Craigslist. Get on Facebook Marketplace. Email your old clients and tell them you're rebooting. Give yourself 2 weeks. I almost laughed. 2 weeks? Yes, because you're good. Better than you think. Your podcast had traction because you did everything right. You don't need them, but they need you, and that's exactly why you have to walk away. My throat tightened. But what if I fail? Then you fail forward, she said simply. But at least it's your fault, not one they pushed you into. I stared at the phone, heart pounding. Something in my chest, something crushed for days, lifted. Not all the way, but enough to breathe. Dana must have seen it, because she smiled softly. I'll Venmo you $1,200 for the deposit. You helped me when I had nothing. Now it's my turn. And just like that, hope cracked through the darkness. After we hung up, I opened my laptop. My hand still shook, but I clicked anyway. Craigslist, Austin Studio Rentals, co-working spaces, sublets. There it was. A listing for a small brick unit on East 6th, exposed beams, sound-safe walls, perfect for recording. Price? Higher than I wanted. Opportunity? Higher than anything I'd had in weeks. I emailed the landlord. Then 3 more. Then I messaged my clients. Big shift happening. New studio coming soon. I'll be back online in 2 weeks. Priority slots for returning partners. For the first time in days, my chest didn't feel like it was collapsing. I wasn't out of the hole yet. But for the first time, I saw a ladder. 2 weeks later, I walked into Sunday dinner with a folder tucked under my arm. The lease agreement for my new studio, signed, stamped, and still warm from the printer. Mom had made pot roasts, which she always saved for special occasions. A strange irony, considering this was the last dinner I intended to share under their roof for a long time. Dad sat at the head of the table. Harper lounged beside him, one manicured hand resting theatrically on her abdomen. Logan scrolled something on his phone, smirking at whatever scheme he was cooking. We made small talk about nothing. Weather, traffic, the new barbecue place down the road. But beneath it all, I felt a hum in my bones, a countdown. Finally, Dad turned to me with that too cheerful tone he used when he wanted information. So, Marissa, how's the apartment set up? Clients coming back yet? I set my fork down. Actually, I said calmly, that's what I wanted to talk about. The table stilled. Harper looked up, lightly biting her lip as if preparing for drama. Logan leaned back in his chair like he was settling in for entertainment. I rested the folder in front of me. I signed a lease on a commercial studio downtown, East 6th. Exposed brick, soundproof walls, proper setup. I move in next weekend. For 2 seconds, Nobody moved. Then Harper blinked in confusion. Why would you pay for another place? You have the apartment. I nodded. The apartment isn't a studio. Never was. And now I don't need it. Dad frowned. But we counted on your rent. You said you'd keep paying until the end of the year. I won't be paying anymore, I said, voice steady. Not for the apartment, not for anything else. Effective immediately. It was like a match dropped into gasoline. What? Dad barked. Mom's hand flew to her chest. Logan muttered something under his breath. Harper gasped like she'd been stabbed. Mom leaned forward, voice trembling. Honey, please, think about Harper. She's under so much stress. The baby. There is no baby, I said quietly. Harper froze. Logan stiffened. Dad's jaw locked. I continued. I've watched you walk around like an actress between rehearsals. Not one doctor's visit, not one ultrasound, not one real symptom. And I heard you all last week, talking about sponsors, talking about filming schedules, talking about timing your announcement for maximum views. Harper's face drained of color. Are you spying on us? She snapped. No, I got up for water. Logan slammed his hand on the table. This is insane. You think we'd lie about something like, don't. I cut in. I've lost clients. I've lost income. I've lost work I spent years building, all because you wanted a free studio for a fake mommy channel. You used my silence like it was currency. Dad's face reddened. You're being ungrateful after everything we've given. I laughed softly. Everything you've given me? Dad, I covered your truck repairs last year. Mom's medical copays, Harper's rent, Logan's credit cards. I've been carrying this family financially for years, quietly, willingly, but not anymore. Mom's eyes welled with tears on cue. We can't lose the house, sweetheart. We're behind on payments. Without your rent. That's not my responsibility, and it never should have been. Harper stood suddenly. So what? You're abandoning us? No, I'm setting boundaries. You all are the ones calling it abandonment. Dad shoved back from the table. If you walk out that door, don't bother coming back for help. Don't expect holiday invites. Don't expect anything. I'm not asking for anything. I never was. I picked up the folder, walked to the front door, and paused. Harper whispered viciously, This is over a room, Marissa. A stupid room. I turned to her. No, this is about respect, and I finally realized you will never give it to me. Then I walked out. No dramatic exit, no slamming doors, just the quiet click of freedom. My car was packed with the last of my equipment, tied down with straps Dana had mailed me. The engine started with one clean turn, and for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like I was suffocating. And stroke. The new studio was a blank canvas, high ceilings, sturdy floors, thick walls, a single wide window spilling morning light across empty space. I spent the first day unrolling cables, hanging foam panels, wiping dust from every inch of equipment I'd salvaged. Then I hit record. The silence was perfect. Clean, steady, mine. Within a week, 2 old clients reached out. Within a month, I signed 3 new sponsorships. Actual brands, actual money, actual respect. 6 months later, the consequences finally caught up to my family. Logan's latest business scheme collapsed under fraud claims. Harper's pregnancy disappeared along with her influencer ambitions. Dad and Mom defaulted on their mortgage. Something about co-signed debt and unpaid credit cards. The house was listed for foreclosure. They called. They texted, they begged. I didn't block them. I didn't scream. I simply didn't respond. Because I had learned something powerful. Sometimes the most righteous revenge is simply walking away and refusing to carry what was never yours.
I wish I could say everything tied itself into a neat bow after that. Like healing came quickly, or success erased every bruise my family left behind. But that's not how it works.
Healing isn't a straight line. It's a long, uneven road where some days you feel strong, and other days you feel the ghost of old wounds tapping your shoulder. Even now, 6 months later, there are moments when I park outside my new studio and hesitate before unlocking the door, not because I'm afraid, but because my brain still expects something to be taken from me. It's strange how your body remembers loss long after your life moves on. But every time I step inside, I'm reminded of something simple and steady. This place exists because I chose myself. Not out of revenge, not out of spite, but because continuing to sacrifice myself for people who refuse to see my worth wasn't love. It was slow erasure. And walking away wasn't abandonment, it was survival. The studio has grown into something bigger than I imagined. I hired a second audio editor, I've got steady partnerships, a loyal listener base. And for the first time in years, I'm paying my bills without anxiety gnawing at my stomach. There's laughter in this space too, real laughter, the kind I didn't even realize I'd been missing. And the silence? The silence is mine. Not taken, not borrowed, mine. My family still reaches out occasionally, a text from my mom about a holiday dinner, a voicemail from my dad about rebuilding bridges, even a message from Harper, half apologizing, half asking for a collab to boost her new channel, whatever that means this week. I don't hate them, but I no longer feel responsible for holding together the parts of their lives that crumble. I learned something in all of this, something I hope lands with anyone hearing my story today. Being the reliable one doesn't mean you owe everyone your life. Being supportive doesn't mean you let people stand on your neck. And being family doesn't give anyone permission to shrink you. Sometimes walking away is the first real act of love you ever give yourself. So if you're listening to this and you've ever felt that quiet pressure to stay small, to stay silent, to stay easy, to carry weight that was never yours, I hope my story gives you permission to breathe again, to choose yourself, even if it scares you, especially if it scares you. Before we wrap up, tell me in the comments, what boundary do you wish you had set earlier in your life? And tell me where you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. If you want more real stories about choosing yourself, healing, and reclaiming what's yours, hit subscribe. Thanks for listening. And remember, you are allowed to walk away. You are allowed to rebuild. And you never have to apologize for protecting your peace.